Welcome back to episode 7. We're going to be touching upon continuing with your New Year's goals and how to make sure you actually achieve what you set out to for the year. So I think the approach for this, if we take like a male 22-year-old as an example, who's a full-time worker, like 40 hours Monday to Friday, and we break down and give advice how they can achieve their summer body that they want and give how we would keep the structure going.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way because we can go in depth then, can't we?
Yeah, I suppose at the start off, what's their current position at the moment?
So they've come off the back of Christmas, they've put on an extra half a stone, they're carrying a bit of extra weight, but by summer they want to be ripped with a bit of extra muscle.
So firstly, I'd look at the physique and say, what's position they're in the moment? How's the condition looking? How's the training going? How are they feeling? How responsive are they to food? That kind of thing. If they're in a pretty good spot condition wise, in other words, are they lean? Are they looking like, how close are they to summer shredded? Basically, I might put them in a surplus for a bit of time, or at least keep it maintenance, get training, don't get it ramping up in terms of volume and that kind of thing. But if they're, obviously you said, if they come off the back of Christmas and New Year, they've put a bit of extra timber on, they're not in a great place condition wise, I'll probably pull them into a slight deficit.
Yourself?
Yeah, probably the same. And then just be realistic with your time frame, like depending on where you're.
So we said the holiday was the back end of summer, August/September.
So you've got fucking ages, haven't you?
You got a while then, haven't you? You got
Oh wait, I thought you were saying New Year's. I mean like
it's the New Year's.
Yeah.
They've got
oh, and they got like
but
7-8
they've got
months.
till August to achieve the summer
Oh,
body
yeah.
for the holiday that they've booked.
I would. Yeah, it depends obviously how. It depends on how they look, really. And
Yeah, how fast they are.
Yeah.
Okay, so say they were about between 18 to 20% body fat currently.
Okay, so
Not over the
Not
top.
crazy.
They've just put a little bit of extra on over Christmas, but they want to achieve that summer physique.
I would probably do, like you said, probably maintenance / a little bit of a surplus. Get your training like in a good spot. Get lifting heavy, build a bit of muscle, and then 16 to 20 weeks potentially coming down gradually.
So you wouldn't take an approach of cutting down a little bit that timber?
I think if you just get them on cleaner foods
Yeah.
from the get go,
Yeah,
you're gonna just
100%.
lose that
Yeah.
naturally anyway. And like cutting out if they've been drinking shitloads and eating loads of crap, that's gonna naturally drop off once you start a plan anyway. So around maintenance / a little bit of a surplus depending on where they're at, and then like I said, just be realistic with your time frame. If they're like got 20% body fat or whatever, what did you say, 15 to 20%?
Between 15 to 20%.
Then yeah, you can drop that in a good 4 months, 5 months easily. So
Yeah.
Okay, so the working full time, I think great advice in terms of not dropping calories because people would after Christmas. I think that's a big panic. People go, oh, I need to get summer body. And they go into a deficit and don't give themselves any time to actually add a little bit of size to cut back from. So don't panic about that extra bit of Christmas weight.
I think even when you've probably had it when you've sent someone a plan and they're like, fucking hell, all this food, like I've got to eat all that. Like, trust me, it's not a lot
No,
of food.
not when it's clean, it doesn't touch the sides, and that is a big emphasis on if you started now, make sure you have picked the right food options, things that do easily digest, your rices, your potatoes, keep your protein sources clean. We've touched upon it in the past, haven't we? Protein yogurts, cutting them sort of things out, good sources of protein. That'll make a big difference because your body will get to a good place very quickly, and then you can ramp foods up from that. But training wise, how would you approach their training? If they just want a summer type of body, where would your preference be with the training? 5 times a week we'll go with.
5 times a week, personally, I think, regardless of your goal, whether you're going into a growing phase or if you're looking to cut, the training should vary very minimally. I think the foundations are going to be there regardless of what your goal is. Obviously, there's going to be slight variances. For example, if we were taking them into a surplus, if we were happy with where the condition was, and we wanted to push the body weight up a bit, you'd be comfortable having a bit more volume in there.
Yeah.
You'd know that the recoverability was going to be there purely just because of the higher food. If you were putting them into, let's say, just like a deficit straight off the bat, you might be a bit more cautious of that. But as a starting position for 5 days a week training, personally, I think a good place to start would be a push-pull legs. Depending on maybe specific areas that they'd want to improve on, you'd adapt that slightly. If they were lagging in certain areas, you may add, like let's say the back was lagging, you might add an extra back day in. Just like anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
Similar approach.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's like you said, if there's lagging body parts that they want to build, then I'll drip it in like twice a week maybe.
Yeah.
But it's all about just trying to get them, if they're like a fairly new to the gym as well, it's about getting them training with intensity and actually lifting heavier. Because
how would you introduce that intensity? So this person, obviously, that we're talking about, a lot of people that will be in this position, you know, we're a couple of weeks into the new year, just got into my training. You know, I've been to the gym in the past. You know, I've trained push pull for a year or so. I'm wanting that for my body. How would you introduce extra intensity for a person?
So from what I do with my clients, I get people to send me form videos of them doing their sets.
Perfect.
So I can see how they're training to start off
A
with.
huge one I'm pushing at the moment. Like every client I'm demanding, they get a midweek check-in now. Have you sent a training video? It's just such it makes a big difference, doesn't it? Seeing how someone
100%.
Yeah.
trains.
One of my new clients did it the other day, and he literally recorded every exercise for the week and sent it on his check-in day. I was like, Jesus, but then but it was good.
His whole
Yeah, it was good because the things he was doing wrong, if he hadn't have sent that, like if his form was like pretty bad on some of the stuff, but we've corrected it straight away from the get-go. If I'm telling him, oh, you can lift heavier on that, and his form's shit, he's going to be progressing and not making any progress.
The right way.
Do you know what I mean? So form videos are a massive thing. They're very underrated in like the coaching process, in my opinion.
I think it's huge. If you're not sending or if you're not recording yourself, at least you know you don't need a coach. But if you're not recording yourself how you're exercising, you may thinking, yeah, no, I'm actually doing it really well. You put it on video. I've done it myself.
I record my sets, and sometimes I'm like, fucking hell, like I could slow that down. I could improve. Like training's a skill at the end of the day. You can always get better and try different things. And
well, I've introduced squats into my Cam's introduced squats into my program, and I've not squatted for ages, probably a couple of years, and it felt dead uncomfortable.
Barbell.
Yeah, barbell, and then I did the second week. I did it. I was like, that was mid. Watched it back. I was like, that was nowhere near deep enough.
Yeah.
Even in my head, I felt it was good.
Yeah.
You record yourself training.
Yeah, I fully back that, to be honest. Because I've been through phases before where I maybe haven't recorded myself as much, and then I've started recording myself again. And I'm like, wow, I'm getting a bit sloppy there.
Yeah.
But overall, I tend to think my form is all right. But you know, everyone needs a second pair of eyes.
So your clients that you work with, do you get them to send them across? Do you check their form on?
Yeah. So as you said, you know, when you mentioned you got all these videos at once. What I like to do is on like the very first, like very start when you start working with someone, I want to see everything.
Yeah.
And from that point on, obviously, I'm not going to expect that every single week. But the reason why I ask for everything at the start is because you can see how the form is, not necessarily how hard they're training, because that's what I think you can assess from just a few movements, a few ones that they may be struggling with. But at the start, you can correct any issues right off the bat, and then as you're going in weekly check-ins, just as and when maybe they think they're struggling on something or one particular thing doesn't work for them, and just generally, if they send maybe like 1 or 2 clips over in a check-in just of one big movement, let's say a hack squat, you can see if their training's a failure or not. You know how much they're training hard. Like,
so you take all the videos and use obviously seeing that one person's all the videos. From that, if you've identified obviously an exercise they're struggling with, will you repeatedly ask for that video until it's been corrected?
So what I did, the ones that it was obviously fine, I was like, yeah, they're fine. You don't necessarily need to send me them like all the time, obviously, but you're doing them right. The ones he wasn't doing right, I was like, right, send it me again next time. Implement this, that.
Yeah.
Give him some like form cues.
Make sure that it's actually improved.
Yeah. And I think it's also like dropping your ego a little bit as well. Like I think I've done it in the past, you know, when you're kind of chasing to try and beat a number and you're like and your form and that rep didn't go as deep as I would like, but I got it up, you know, one of them.
I can see that a lot on like clients' videos. I had one this week. and you could see like the control on the way up was great, but coming down, maybe the tricep movement, it was just too heavy because you wasn't getting the full extension.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, well, record it again, drop the weight slightly, slow it down, get that connection, and it even fed back like how much better it felt. And it is a big one, like the emphasis on training. If you can nail down your training and really take it to a whole new level, the more you break down, you see yourself train, someone sees you train. That's why having a coach is always a great idea for that extra eyes. You will find the progression.
I think it also brings the enjoyment as well, because when you know you've got to beat something, and like if you're just going into the gym and just lift a bit of weight, not really truly pushing yourself, it's going to get fucking boring very quickly.
I put in my feedback like set goals. Like I want to know what you want to achieve on this exercise next week, so then we can go on that day. Have you achieved it? You're going in with a reason and something to beat. Which I think when you go on your own sometimes, I don't always track every single lift because I do sometimes find it boring. Sometimes I go with like certain ones and I'll just be like, right, I'm just going to fully send that session. But then certain exercises, like the start of my session, that are the biggest ones, the biggest movements, I'll really track them numbers. But at the back end, sometimes
What you mean, like you don't log, like kind of log it at the back end?
Yeah, sometimes my biceps, triceps, I'll go more for failure.
Okay.
Whereas like my big movements at the start of a session, my bench, my like dumbbell presses, I'll track that granularly. But I like the flip of having both, because I personally sometimes I don't want to just be in a logbook. I want to be headphones are on and I'm just sending it.
Yeah, I fully back that, and it comes with the point that let's say you're doing a heavy movement right at the start, you've got much more ability to progress.
Let's say sideways. Like let's say you're doing 14 kg on sideways. If you progress that every single week, you'd be doing 50 kg. Like
that's not going to happen. So I think that's another good reason why you'd maybe logbook, maybe the majority of the session, and then there'd be some exercises which you wouldn't.
Going back onto this like fake guy who we made up.
Yeah.
Halfway through, so when would you change anything in training wise as you kind of go down the line to his like?
So the intensity that we touched upon there, for me, I'd introduce our start point. Be like, right, this is what we're going in, this is where your calories are going to be. Let's see how you react to that. And depending on his body's reaction, as food goes up, I'd introduce a few more sets, a few more reps. But then as we come down into a cut, I might take a little bit out. It'd be more on the response of his body to the training volume. If he responds really well, is recovering really well, I'll crank it up a bit. I'll throw in an extra set. I'll throw in like a muscle round to keep the intensity there. If his body's not recovering very well, it's like, okay, there's too much demand. Maybe we need to come back. It's more on how he's kind of responding to that.
Yeah, it's based on like the feedback and stuff.
Yeah.
I was just asking because what I kind of do with mine is I'll give them like after like 12 weeks of doing the same, obviously exercise, same plan, I'll then ask them if there's any exercises that they don't feel like they connect with as well.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that.
I mean, and then swap stuff out if they're struggling to make progress.
If the enjoyment's not there, it's definitely a question I have every week in my feedback. Are you enjoying training? If not, which movements are you not enjoying? Why are you not enjoying them? Is it a case of, if they're connecting well, I've seen a training video of it, it's just not enjoying. I kind of sometimes keep it in. I'm like, listen, I'm actually really progressing that well. I'll drill that in, but if I'm not connecting with it, I'm not really progressing, I'll take it out. Sometimes I will just keep it in because it's like, no, you're really good at that movement. We're progressing well. It's going to really age you. Force it for another like 4 weeks. Why would you take something that you're progressing well just because it's not fully enjoyable? But if I'm not enjoying it and I'm not connecting, then I will definitely take it out.
Yeah. I think that's it's a good point to ask them how things are connecting. And I think just to build on from that, let's say, like I know we discussed before about transitioning from a cutting phase into a bulking phase. It's a very good chance to make that transition. I know there's no necessarily there isn't a reason to change. Part of it can just be due to having a switch in terms of a new routine. But also, let's say for example, you've been running up dumbbell RDLs right the way through the cut. They've been absolutely flying. they're still working well. There's no reason to take those out when you move into a cutting phase. People think, oh, now we're moving into a bulking phase. We need to completely just change our training. As you say, if something's going well,
Yeah, why?
in,
Yeah,
you continue to-
yeah. That's what a lot of people think. They need a new training plan every fucking
Yeah, every
6 weeks.
ball,
Yeah.
a whole new plan. But
Mm.
minimal changes like that obviously make a big difference anyway, because it does. Even if you change one or two exercises in a session, it does. It kind of makes it like, oh, this is new. My body will respond in a slightly different way.
You just kind of need to give it time. I think the people who change the training all the time,
Yeah,
they've not really got a plan, or
no,
have got a plan in the most.
It's just not fully committed, and there's no end goal. Like obviously, this like what we started with, the guy that's 22, he's got into his New Year's goals. We'd get him out of maintenance. We'd run his training. You've hit the 12-week mark. You've taken calories right up. We're getting to that point. Is now going into the cut. As you've heard from 3 different coaches' opinions, I won't try and change everything. The only thing that should change is them slight movements, or if everything's going well, just your calories. You could literally run the same training program the whole way till that August goal, couldn't you?
Yeah. What would you do cardio wise?
Now that's the one that would chop and change. I'd run cardio through the surplus. It's something that I'll be doing on my own, but I'd taper it down. So I may go to like 3, 4, 20-minute sessions a week, just for cardiovascular health, aids digestion, keeps us in a really good place. I'd then manipulate food a little bit and slowly drive it up over the 16-week period. I may introduce an extra session, or we may go, okay, we could be in the gym this many times a week, but 5 times. We won't be able to do 6 or 7 cardio for 30 minutes. And at 30 minutes, I wouldn't actually change it to 40 minutes until we've rinsed intensity out of it. I prefer to keep cardio minimal, but the intensity, so we increase the in pace or the incline to make it harder first before then going 40 minutes.
Yeah, I fully back that. I mean, the cardio that you'd be implementing, I'm guessing that it would just all be low intensity. Start off with low intensity. I mean, with my clients, there's very, very specific circumstances, very unique situations where I actually put in HIIT training. I rarely use HIIT training.
I rarely do.
Purely just because of like a recoverability element.
Yeah, massively. Especially as you come to the back end of the cut, you've not got the energy to do that, literally.
Yeah. Even I'd say, if I was going to implement it, it would probably be to someone who enjoys that more and is maybe in a bulking phase and they want to have a bit of variability. They want to, stay healthy, stay fit, keep the cardiovascular health in place, have that in once a week, just from an enjoyment perspective as well.
What's your go-to cardio? Because I know yours was stepper, wasn't it, for the duration of your cut? Do you have a machine? Is it bike? Is it treadmill? Is it stepper?
For me, or
for you personally.
Stairs.
That's a big joke, mate.
To be honest, I've just because I just moved into my new place, I've got a bike, spin bike, so I'm going to be using that like on a winter's morning and I can't be asked going to the gym. I'm just going to jump on the bike for 20-25 minutes.
So obviously, would you keep the cardio the same? So we touched upon cardio, taking it up. Would you chop and change what cardio you would use? Would you tell them just stick to the stepper or have a stepper and a bike?
I would try and push the stepper as much as possible because I just think it's the best. Like you said, if they've got a bike at home, why not fucking
exactly.
It's easier.
And I think in terms of being consistent with it, I'd say both options are good options. But when you're in a cutting phase, let's say you're taking it a bit more seriously, you're prepping for a show, I'd say keep that whatever cardio you're doing, keep it consistent.
Yeah.
I'd be probably a little bit more opposed to having like maybe this week just do stepper, this week do bike. I don't think it's a great idea.
It's a point I want to touch on because people do that in a cut, like it's not working, my cardio is not working. You've just not given it enough weeks. Like people do start to panic, like, oh well, I need to do an extra 5 minutes, an extra 10 minutes, and you take away from the progression that you're actually going to get from it. As you come to the back end of your cut, like I said, from show to show for me, nothing changed besides I made sure I was as clean as possible. I made sure that I was routined as possible. There was no extra cardio. There was no change to cardio. It was making sure that things were nailed down. And it was the fact that I went for another 6 weeks in that deficit. and
Yeah.
give myself more time at that period.
What was your cardio max start
I did 5 40-minute sessions.
at? Oh, that it? Oh,
Yeah.
To be fair, your step count was fucking.
Yeah, steps were about 15,000 a day, like, so
Yeah.
that kind of like counteracted it. Which is another one, if you've not got the time during your cut to go to the gym, you know, you're at that back end, you can get your steps up. That was an easy way for me in work. It was like, right, bang it out.
Yeah.
So that covers most things for obviously that run to August. But when we come to the routine of it, so we talked about your training intensity, cardio, all that side of things, how you'd approach it. How would you structure a routine for someone that is a Monday to Friday worker? You know, they work 40 hours a week. What days would you recommend they go to the gym if they've got the availability throughout the week so that they have adequate rest in between sessions?
So I probably ask them, are you like an early riser, or do you prefer to train in the morning, or do you prefer to train in the evening? That's a big one I'd start off with. And then let's say, for example, they were like, oh yeah, I love getting it done early and then working after. I'd probably fit in sessions. Like, let's say, for example, they've got more time at the weekend. I put the bigger sessions at the weekend.
Okay.
Purely because I think it helped them a lot more. Now it helps me if I had a leg session on a Monday or a Tuesday or Wednesday morning, I'm not going to be working very well on
those days. So I always do legs on a Saturday for purely for that reason. So I can fit it in well.
You know, it's different if you're someone who's got other commitments on a weekend. Maybe you can't train at the weekend. Then obviously you'd have to fit those sessions in during the week. But a big thing would be, when do you prefer training? What works best for you? Yeah.
What days you can do it and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just all around their lifestyle at the end of the day, isn't it?
But you've got 7 days across the week, you've got 5 sessions. You would want a rest day in between.
I normally stick a rest day either Wednesday or Thursday and then Sunday. That's how I
That's what
would
you
normally do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, firstly, if they can train,
They've got the availability throughout the week, so they can train any day.
I'd probably have them training both days of the weekend, and I'll have 2 rest days during the week. Personally, just because
I think for me anyway, I know that I can train better on the weekend.
the clients I work with, they've got more time at the weekend. They can devote a bigger window to training, and they can give it their all more on the weekend. So
I've never really looked at that approach.
No, I haven't.
It's a really valid point. And if you've got someone training Saturday, Sunday, it's going to take away that temptation on a Friday night or Saturday night a lot more.
Yeah.
So I've always tried to plan it in the week for people so that they've got the weekends freer. But if they've got that availability, like you say, they can definitely take it a lot further at the weekend because they'll have more time to. Give me a bit extra to put my coaching there.
Yeah. Unless you like a full day off, if you literally just like to have a day that's free, then I'd maybe go with what you were saying. But if you can fit in an hour and a half on a weekend, let's say you get it done and then you got the rest of the day, then that's what I tend to recommend, to be honest.
It's a valid point, and I quite like it, to be fair. That
change up to your coaching.
yeah, essentially, that's what I mean. It's like, some people will probably like that.
Everyone's
benefit
different.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
Make sure you take that one on board. So that, I think, covers obviously your structure, your routine, how to approach your way you're training and everything else. Now, we came to the nutritional intake throughout the day. I know we touched a little bit on obviously the introduction one that we did with you on the last episode, but this person works in an office. How would you advise them to meal prep and make sure that they're really on point? Would you say meal prep for 3 days a week? Would meal prep across the week? You know, this is someone with the time to be able to do it. How would you approach it for that?
I like to prep like 2 or 3 meals of my day, like on one specific day. So I'll prep like 3 meals for the day for like 3 or 4 days. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Same approach I took when I was in the hotel, because it keeps you like, that's my prep day.
Yeah, and you can just, like you said, was it in the last one? You just reheat it, and it's just easy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I do. And then obviously I have your oats and stuff like that. That you can just make them up in a couple of minutes anyway. So like obviously your main meals or like your lunchtime meals, stuff like that, definitely prep them. Because if you're going into the office without a prep, without lunch or something, meal deal or fucking Deliveroo, whatever, yeah.
Easy,
So you definitely need to have your prep on point, especially throughout the week whilst you're at work. 100%.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd be really similar. I'd say meal prep, what would save you time and what you can prep. So like you were saying, you meal prep meals 2, 3, 4
Yeah,
for like every day. This is assuming that you're having the same food every single day,
Mm.
which again I'd definitely recommend to someone. So if I'd do that twice a week. So you do it for 3 days and then you do it for another 3 or 4 days.
Mm.
And I just think that you save so much time doing that. Prep the meals that are going to take you the longest if you were going to cook them individually, and then the other meals of the day can be the ones that aren't going to really make much of a difference.
Yeah, like your breakfast in the morning,
Yeah,
potentially.
if you have
tea
to
at
oat some
night.
whey or something, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that that's probably the best way to approach it, and to but with that being said, everyone, if you recommend something to someone, everyone has their own unique way of doing something. You can
Oh,
recommend
100%, yeah.
you can recommend what you're going to say, but some people might work from home and they might be like, right, I like to cook all my meals fresh. I'm like, go for it.
Yeah.
If you've got the time to do that and you can stick to that, absolutely do that, because that's just as good, and probably there's less chance of getting food poisoning from that. Like I said,
Prep it fine. You're not going to get food poisoning. But if you're cooking it fresh, there's definitely less chance of that happening.
I think one thing that you did mention there, and this is something that I am pushing onto my own clients a lot more, like really trying to push it, having very similar meals for like efficiency, for knowing you're on point, making prep easy, taking a lot of thought out of it and saving people time. Like having that set meal plan routine is just, I think, a very easy approach and makes like the process so much easier. I know there are clients that I work with that love to make different meals every night, but for 80-90% of people, if you really want to see the quickest, the best progress, having similar meals, same time each day, just it takes so much pressure off you. You know what you have, and you know it'll work.
What I do with my clients, which I think works really well to find out what they're having and to stick to similar food. So obviously on the plan, I'll give them different foods they can have.
Yeah.
On their check-in form, I get them to write out what they currently have each day, and it's 9 times out of 10 it's the same stuff every day. Or apart from some people who'll put like the different options, but it's never really more than 2 or 3 different meals like for an evening.
And then your clients are flying.
Yeah. But a lot of them will just, like, I'm the same. I just eat the same thing every day. You two are probably the same.
Yeah.
And it's the clients that always make the best progress are those that do stick to that structure, because those that are like, oh, can I have this, or can I have this instead of this constantly throughout the week?
Yeah.
You're trying too much to find a solution that still gives you a lot more of your sugary side of things. I think that's what people still aim towards. Like, what can I still have, instead of this is what I'm having to achieve my goal.
I think the thing behind it, when you said like the people who stick to the same foods get better results, one thing where you're changing the foods like every day, or someone who's like asking, oh, can I have this, can I have that instead of this, it just sends all the calories might be the same, but it sends the macros a bit out of whack, doesn't it?
100%.
And then when you then come to make some changes on the plan, if they're not having the same,
they're having extra protein,
and then the carbs are lower, fats are higher, or whatever. I think when you then do make a slight change, like in the calories, if you bring the calories down by 100 or 150 calories, I don't think you get as good as a response as you would
completely
if you was having the exact same thing every single day, the exact same calories, the exact same macros. And then you just drop 100 calories. You probably would do it on prep. You drop 100 calories, and you'll lose like 2 or 3 pounds.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But if you're having different foods every single day, the response isn't going to be as good.
Your body's internally not digesting things in the same way. It's why mealtime routine makes a big difference as well, because if you've got something coming in at roughly the same, it doesn't need to be precise, but roughly the same time each day, and it's pretty much the same thing each day, your body knows exactly what's coming in. It can actually let that excess fat go, or it can get into the muscle building process properly. Whereas if you're constantly throwing different things in there, it's like, oh, what's coming tomorrow? It can't get into the routine that you want it to.
It's like what you said earlier when you said you've been out and if your nutrition's not been as good, you probably stayed within your calories, but your macros are all fucking out of whack.
Nowhere near as it
and you feel probably a lot shitter in yourself and not as much energy, things like that.
Sleep affected, digestion wise, definitely impacted.
That's why people who just go off calories,
Yeah.
I hate it.
It's the quality of the food as well, I think, because
Exactly.
I have worked with some people before that prefer a macro plan, and like they can still make it work. But particularly when you're like, let's say you're starving and you're on a macro plan, you're gonna tend towards like worse options of
shittier
food.
foods, yeah.
Like so that, let's say you're on like whatever calories, you tend to go towards more protein yogurts and squares bars.
Yeah.
I mean down the squares.
Yeah.
But like and as opposed to having a clean meal. So I really think that as well as the quality of the food that you're going to be having, which if you fix that in a meal plan, you know you're getting that quality food.
It's the volume you get with it as well. Like if you had a square bar over fucking rice or potato, the volume of it to like a little
It's
square
going to
bar.
keep you more satiated.
Exactly.
100%.
And I don't think that's what a lot of people get. Is
No,
what
it's
the
why
food
people are like,
does.
I'm starving. Whereas a lot of times, like if you do a cut right, yeah, you should be hungry, but you can still be pretty satisfied when you're having your meals. If you've got the right foods going in, you know, at the right times, you're not overly starving. Whereas some people that are on these, like women particularly, that have to drop pretty low, you know, like sometimes down to 1,300 calories. It would be hard if you're not having very good foods. Like imagine you're on that and you're just having like a protein yogurt and a squares bar, and all of a sudden half your calories are nearly gone.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think in like a gaining phase or off season, when your calories are high, chuck them in. Like get the calories in. They're probably going to be easier to get in. But when you're in that back end of the cut or a harsh deficit, you want foods that are going to fill you up and give you energy, because your energy is going to be naturally lower because the food's lower. So quality of the food plays a massive fucking role.
I was going to say also when you're in a dieted state and you're choosing those options with maybe more sweeteners and that kind of thing, it makes you crave them even more. I've been guilty of before, like how many flavour drops do you want to add into this meal? Like you're just going to keep adding more.
I've been like that. When on my last prep I brought you know them skinny sauces.
Oh yeah.
Zero calorie. Have you not?
I tried one. I can't remember what flavour it was. I know the skinny sauces that you mean though.
Yeah.
I think it was like the butterscotch one. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was really
I'm like
good.
loading up on that. I'm like, I'm gonna probably break off this, but I'm fucking starving.
Yeah.
But
You don't mind being bloated when you're on prep. You're not going to eat.
Literally. But then when you come out and you're not even that, when you're not hungry, and I tried it the other day, and I was like, it tastes like shit. You know when you're on prep, like
It tastes different.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
So
I think that covers a lot of things. Then we touched training, food intake, the quality of your food, having a proper meal plan in place. There are so many things that you can just nail down, and it's so basic. A meal plan is basic, isn't it? You know, it's not hard. Your routine each week is very basic. Okay, I'm going 5 times a week. Here's my sessions, and then everything on top of that just builds to it. The extra cardio is a simple change. Your extra steps is a simple change. But if you've not got that set routine, you heard the detail that we went into with the nutrition, how you should structure it, the training, how you should structure that. If you've not thought about that, and you know you're kind of a couple of weeks into this new year, and you're already thinking, I'm not sticking to that, I'm not seeing results, it's probably because you've not nailed down things in the right way, and you've not got a clear path that you can push on with. Now, I think a great extra to add to that, you know, you see me drinking a Monster throughout. We're doing a session after this podcast, pre-workouts, because they're gonna, you know, this person's they've started the gym, they probably bought all the supplements and everything else. When and where would you introduce pre-workouts, and why?
Pre-workout, like supplements or pre-workout meal?
Someone that's they're into the new year, getting into the goals.
the meal,
supplements,
or supplements.
Supplements wise.
Okay.
What supplements should this person actually be taking, and obviously why?
So I think the main one's obviously caffeine. I'd say in terms of a pre-workout, that's something that everyone sees a benefit of. You get a lot more focus going into your sessions, and also just like the ability to push more. I think that's a good one. And then any sort of pre-workout, like you can obviously go for a stim pre-workout, stim heavy pre-workout, or you can go for more of a pump pre-workout. And that, personally, I never really dabbled into the pump pre-workouts before, the non-stim ones, but ever since going into them, obviously seen better coaching in the session,
Yeah.
and performance is like increased massively. I'm feeling a lot better when I'm doing my sets, and you know, it's week on week. You may not notice like massive difference, but over time, these things compound. And I definitely think having a good pump pre-workout. Honestly, now it's kind of flipped over a stim pre-workout. I prefer to have a black coffee.
Pre any day.
Yeah.
I'd have that, and
I'm flying off that really. And also in a lot of pump pre-workouts, they have like a decent amount of sodium. You might see on the one I had before, they actually have Himalayan pink salt in it. So having
There's
I
the
do.
quality one then.
Yeah, I do. I put pink Himalayan salt in
yeah
my stuff there.
yeah.
But I just had BCAAs and then pink Himalayan salt
Yeah.
in my drink just for the pumps.
Yeah. do you know something on pink Himalayan salt though? I heard something the other day, and it's obviously pink Himalayan salt's got a lot more minerals than normal table salt. But the one, I think, obviously pink Himalayan salt's become a bit of a trend, hasn't it?
I think
It's become a bit of a trend. But actually, Celtic salt.
Yeah, I've seen the video.
Celtic salt has got more nutrients, and there's less chance of it having heavy metals in it, which aren't good for you.
Yeah, I've
so
seen that video.
that might become a new trend.
Yeah.
I've not seen
I
that.
might bring that new trend on.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it on the next episode.
But yeah, I literally just have that and then a black coffee. That's
Yeah.
all I do. I don't normally have a pump supplement, but I'll just put pink Himalayan salt in.
Yeah, have a scoop of that one today if you fancy.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try
I'll try
it.
that.
See what the hype's about.
Feedback on it and get on the next one. To be fair, with pre-workout, it's not always food, but if I am going to have a caffeine dose, I will very much see what time of day I'm training, whether I actually need it. I'm not a big fan of them. I only use it as and when, which is the approach that I do take with a lot of clients, because I feel like, especially with the caffeine hit, it can impact sleep if you're training later in the day, can become quite addictive, like that side of things. I think I see what the pump one actually does because I'm interested. I was using a decent one during my cut, but I've not used one since starting the book, so it'll be interesting to see that during your session. So supplements with your pre-workout as a pump, you get your salts in, and if you want obviously a caffeine hit during your workout, what other supplements would someone need, or would you not really recommend?
So a lot of this is like dependent on their situation again. I've had some clients which really opposed to having an intra workout, so it just doesn't sit well for them. You know, if they're having like let's say you have in your intra workout just two main staple things, let's have an EAA and a carb powder. Let's just say those. There's obviously other things you can add in as well: glutamine, creatine, pink salt. Again, a few extra things you can add in. But with those two things, some people it just throws the digestion off, and that's stopping you getting the rest of your meals in. Don't have an intra workout.
It did with me. I can't remember which one it had, but I had a carb powder one.
Yeah.
And I was just fucking bloated throughout my whole session. I was like, what the fuck?
Comes to your post workouts, and you don't want to eat it really.
Yeah.
But if they're sitting well for you, I think it's like beneficial. Extra calories again at the end of the day.
Easy extra calories as well.
And like when I have a carb powder, which I've got now before we train, it improves my performance massively. I don't know if you experienced the same thing.
I did. I was using one for a while, and then I cut it out to see the difference. But it's definitely being reintroduced when my routine's on point. I think that's a big one with supplements, especially for myself. If my routine's not nailed down, like my diet's not been well recently, I'll kind of cut it out until my diet's back clean.
Yeah.
Because I don't see the point in a lot of the supplements. If you're not nailing down your diet, they make a little bit of difference. And I think that's a big one for people that's jumped in the new year. You're in a good routine. If you're thinking I need this supplement, that supplement, we touched on some very basic ones. As you said there, it's if it goes well, you do not need that intra workout 100%. Like it definitely will make a difference during some people's bulks or some people's training. You could keep it in the whole time. I know some people do in the cut, like throughout the cut. Some people keep a very small one in for performance basis. But I think a lot of the time they're so hyped up, and it's like a sales scam in a way.
Oh yeah, 100%. So much of it's market at the end of the day. Yeah. Like there's a benefit obviously, but for someone that's starting the gym who hasn't really established a routine yet, who's never really been into the gym before, like put that on the back burner.
Yeah, they don't really need it.
No, they don't need it to start off. You should put that in
once you've established a routine and you're serious
Everything
with
else
it.
is nailed
Yeah,
down.
100%.
Yeah.
So there's this new starter that started. When would you recommend to introduce if they're nailed down? 6 weeks, 8 weeks? start to look then?
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, there's no reason why he couldn't do it from off the get-go,
Yeah.
but it's not like you have to.
No, I've always took the approach with clients like, we'll dip it in. Like, okay, you know, we've nailed the diet down, now we can add this as an extra. I like to keep them at the side as an extra instead of at the start, because it becomes a very much, I've found with some clients it's like, it becomes, oh, I need to buy all the supplements under the sun then, instead of realising.
Some of them do, then some of them don't. I think some of them, they're like, oh, I'll get everything, and then they're on it. But then some people aren't really too fussed, so it don't really matter too much. But
where would you put your money instead of in supplements?
Your food.
Yeah, food.
And your food, and your gym
My
membership.
food's already fucking expensive.
Gym
So
membership.
it's like someone that's obviously just gotten started. You know, I find they waste so much money on supplements instead of investing properly in the gym. Like you go to the gym, get proper sources of food, or advice from other people. You know, it's what we give. You know, if you started, you're struggling, don't look to what supplements can I add in to make this big killer difference, because you've seen, you know, the person you look up to on Instagram taking this magical supplement that's got these, you know, these 6 results. As you see some posts that sell it all. I think the biggest approach for a lot of people to take in the new year, if you want the best progression, you know, you've kind of got a good start, just go for it, invest in yourself properly, get someone that actually knows what they're talking about, and you will, trust me, 100% get that next level.
Agreed, yeah, definitely, yeah.
We've all used a coach. I know you used Cam, didn't you?
I did indeed, yeah.
And you're still using the coach yourself.
Big Jace, yeah.
I'm still invested in my coach, and it's where your results come, because you've got someone to keep you accountable. If you're not going to be accountable, you know, you're probably a couple of weeks in now, you may have missed a meal, missed a session, and be like, oh, it's all right. We all do it when we're on our own. But having someone in that corner that you got, I've got to send him my photos at the weekend.
Yeah.
I've got to actually tell him what I've been up to.
Yeah.
I've been guilty the past couple of weeks just sending it to Cam, like telling him like, oh my god, I've been on it. But that helps, because it makes sure that you aren't going to slip off. You know,
you've got to be honest at the end of the day. There's no point, if you've got a coach, there's no point in fucking lying or not telling the truth. You're only doing
damaging
yourself.
damaging yourself.
So like if you're lying on a check-in form or you're not telling the truth, and then the coach don't know what's going on. If the coach it's like if you've not been on plan and then say you've not lost weight and then you make a change, you wouldn't have probably had to make that change if they'd been on plan. So it's pointless. It's all just going to add up. So yeah, you've got to be honest, and no matter how bad you've probably felt by telling them, you've just got to say it.
Oh, it's 100%. You've got to say it, and that's where a lot of people will go wrong with your New Year's goals. Is you'll be like, oh, it's all right, and then you keep going, oh, it's all right. Come the summer, you've not achieved what you set out to.
It's definitely for accountability. Like I'm with Jace, he's very like straight talking, and that's what I need. I've been with another coach who was like, oh, it's okay, Lee, like just get back on it. Whereas Jace will be like, right, remember your goal, like what, like it'll just tell me how it is basically, and that's what I need to hear to get me back on it. So like I do it sometimes with my clients. Like I'll be pretty strict with them, like, right, fucking sort your shit out. But they need to hear it. I think the one you can kind of get a grasp of your clients and how they
When's appropriate to do But if you are on your own doing a lot of the training, I don't know, do you still use a coach, Will?
No, I don't use a coach, but what you were saying there before about the accountability, if you're someone who, you know, needs that accountability, and like people have asked me this question before when I had Rosie with Cam, it's like, you're coaching yourself, why have you got a coach? But it's not necessarily the knowledge, but I mean, there's always a chance to learn, don't get me wrong. It's that accountability, like 100%. Like personally me, like when I'm in a prep, I'm so much more likely to listen to someone else. Yeah. Like when
your head's gone at the end of a prep.
Yeah, I'm a fucking nightmare right now. Oh god, I'm like, I'm not going to be ready. And then you find me.
It's like you can't see the same image on a screen
crazy.
when you're like deep into
you doubt yourself, don't you?
I think I put a post on the other day. I was like, when I was in prep and I was like shredding, I was like, I thought like at the time, you're like, I look like shit.
You think you're not lean?
I look fat.
Look back.
Yeah. Then you look back and like, fucking hell. It's,
I was actually.
It's all
take me back to that now.
Literally. But yeah.
So I think that covers the majority of things. You know, routine, find what works best for you. How many sessions, what days of the week. Nutrition, get a meal plan in place. You know, we've all strongly agreed on that one. Find what works best for your cardio. It doesn't matter which, but stick to it. Training intensity, find what's working well, increase it and see how your body responds. But don't chop and change your exercises too much.
Mm-hmm.
And then accountability and recording your sessions, probably your two most key over the period of time. Knowing how you're training and that you're actually staying accountable to what you set out to.
And be fucking consistent.
Always be consistent.
Consistent stuff, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.